The hardest walk leads to the greatest destination. And what's our destination, brothers? The kingdom, man. The arms of Yahushua, man. The scriptures tell us in the Apocrypha, there's a day coming where Yahushua will place crowns upon the heads of the brothers that maintain their faith in him, that believed in him. He shall place crowns upon their heads. Ezra saw that, man. Our great forefather Ezra saw that in the vision. We want to be part of that group, man. We want to be one of those individuals receiving that crown from Yahushua. You know how great that is? I couldn't begin to possibly explain that in words. Words can't even explain the joy of that. Okay?
And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away.
And what is our destiny? To be in this truth. To be in this truth and to make it to the end. As it is written, to finish the work. Like Yahushua said, I've finished the work. You know? The Apostle Paul said the same thing. Henceforth I know there's a crown of righteousness that is laid up for me. Okay, that is our destiny.
Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God, and if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with him. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. Peace and blessings, salutations. Hopefully, out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds. In the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai. All right, now what I want to get into this morning, this afternoon rather, is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, all right, in verse 1. And is a continuation of the series of the book of Corinthians. And this 12th chapter, there's two main points, as the title says, the diversity of gifts, and carried off, Gentiles carried off to dumb idols, and to understand, all right, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2, there's a lot of history, that goes into that, all right. You can find that history in the book of Maccabees, all right, in order to understand the New Testament, you have to understand the history that went down, within that time period of, first and second Maccabees, and brothers often, get into that to explain, all right, why, there's neither Jew nor Greek, according to the scriptures, letting you know, all right, but you have to understand, in order to understand what is the Apostle Paul, all right, referencing, Well, you will have to understand the history between the Greek Empire, all right, and the impact that it had, all right, on our people, all right, the Jews, mainly the Southern Kingdom at the time, okay, the Hellenization period, okay, and we're going to touch on these things. There's plenty of lessons that go, you know, dive deep into that, but we're going to, you know, thoroughly go through, all right, some particular things to get that understanding, and then we deal with the diversity of gifts, one body, in Yahushua. Okay, so let's go to 1 Corinthians 12:1. It says, now about the spiritual gifts, the special endowments, all right, given by the Holy Spirit. Brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed. And, we know the gifts, is given, to his men on the front line for the sake of teaching or aiding, in teaching. Okay, so let's read this in the KJV, and we'll jump back and forth between the KJV and the AMP. 1 Corinthians 12:1, it says, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant that ye were Gentiles carried away unto the dumb idols, even as you were led. Okay, so it says you were Gentiles. So what were they before? They were Gentiles, considered Gentiles. All right, and if they was carried away unto the dumb idols, what were they carried away from? If they had to be carried away to dumb idols, okay, even as you were led. All right, now to understand this, you have to understand that history. Okay, so we're going to go through, all right, the book of 1st and 2nd Maccabees, and I do a recap on their history, and then I got a few things pulled up in the chat. All right, so let's go here. All right, now this is during the time of Antiochus. First Maccabees 1. All right, and 41, it said, moreover, the king Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom, all right, because this is when Judea was under, all right, the jurisdiction of the Seleucid Empire, all right, because when you go into Daniel chapter 8, all right, it goes into detail of what historians call the Syrian Wars, all right, which was a war between the Seleucid Empire, okay, of the north, all right, and the Ptolemaic Empire of the South, all right, and you will have them, all right, battling it out, and Judea was right there in the middle, all right, so you will have times when Judea was under Ptolemaic, okay, rulership, all right, and then they will be under the Seleucid, all right, rulership, okay, and the Seleucid under Antiochus, okay, was very aggressive with Hellenizing, the Israelites, okay, the Jews. You see, this nigga here was a he's a Hall of Fame demon. All right, Antiochus Epiphanes, man. Okay, it says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So this not only was Judea Hellenized, but everyone. All right, under the Greek, all right, empire. The Greeks Hellenized, okay, a major part, okay, of the earth, okay, the known world, that was under the Greek throne, okay, within those borders of Greek influence, that was Hellenized, man, because that was one of their philosophies, was to Hellenize and assimilate everyone into Greek culture. All right, we're going to get more into that. It says, and everyone should leave his laws. All right, and this was like a new world order, without all the technology. You see, it says, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also the Israelites consented to his religion. So there was Israelites that voluntarily went into Hellenization, and there was some that was forced, as we're going to get into it. Okay, it says, and sacrifice unto idols and profane the Sabbath, for the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they shall follow the strange laws, okay, the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the feastful days and pollute the sanctuary, okay, and the holy people set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine flesh and unclean beasts, that they shall also lead their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances, man. So this was a forced, all right, conversion to Hellenization. Okay, you had some Jakes that voluntarily, converted to being Hellenized. Okay, and then there was a decree that went out. All right, and that decree was punishable by what? Let's read verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. Okay, he should die. So it was punishable by death. Okay, so that nothing new under the sun. Just like now, Esau's getting ready to enforce a new world order punishable by death. It's going to get to the point where death is going to be, okay, the punishment of not taking the sea hill is going to be voluntarily, okay? Then it's going to, it's going to get more aggressive to where you're not going to be able to, buy, sell, or participate without it. Then it's going to get to the point where he's going to enforce it, all right, by the sword, man. Okay? It says, in the self-same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judea to sacrifice city by city. Okay? You see that? And you read verse 52, then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land. So there was a force, all right, Hellenization on the Antiochus, man. Okay, punishable by death. All right, and eventually, okay, you will get the Maccabean revolt when you go to the next chapter. All right, Mattathias. All right, this is where you get what they're called the Maccabean revolt. Okay, First Maccabees chapter 2 verse 1 says, in those days arose Mattathias the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorah from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. So Mattathias, okay, was the father, okay, of these Levites, all right, Johanan, all right, Simeon, all right, Simeon, Judas, all right, called Maccabees, Eleazar, all right, and Jonathan, okay, and we know that Judas, he Mattathias jumped off the revolt, okay, and then he was eventually killed, and then Judas, all right, became what? The general, okay, of this revolt, okay. So you read this chapter, and this is where you get the Maccabean revolt because of what? The forced Hellenization. When you read that chapter, not going to get into it, but let's go here too, the second Maccabees. All right. Well, yeah, you read the second Maccabees chapter 2. That's the revolt because of that forced Hellenization. You had some of my forefathers, they weren't going. You see, they weren't budging. May we have that spirit to be unmovable, okay, in these times. All right. Now, you go here, and you can get straight to the point. I say there's lessons on this that go, deep into it. Okay, now, this is second Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 7. Now, this is before first Maccabees chapter 1. This is when Antiochus first became, king. Okay, and Jacob began to, sell out. It said, but after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Ananias, labored underhanded to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver and another revenue 80 talents. So Jason, all right, was with brother of Ananias, who was the rightful high priest, all right, a righteous man, all right, but Jason, he had ambition, okay, to excel within the Greek Empire. All right. He was willing to sell out his brother, sell out the high priesthood, okay, and make it turn the high priesthood into a political office under the Greeks, okay. He really people was selling out to be a puppet leader for the Greeks. Okay, he said besides this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set up a place for exercise and for the training up of the youth in the fashions of the heathen. You see that? So this is generation before, all right, the Apostle Paul ministry. Okay. So by the time Apostle Paul is going to these different churches in Asia Minor and Macedonia, okay, this is just several generations of Jake, okay, being Hellenized, man. Okay. And these are Israelites he's writing to that have been Hellenized, that was carried away into these dumb idols, man. Okay. It says, and for the training up of the youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them in Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians, just like Jake called themselves what? Americans. All right. You're calling yourself after an Edomite. You say African American, there's two Edomites you're calling yourself after. Okay, so he wanted Jake to be called Antiochians. It's the same thing as being called an American or African American. Okay, America goes into Amerigo Vespucci, all right, an Italian map maker. Okay, the first one to incorporate the America on the map. Okay, Edomite. Then you have Leo Scipio Africanus. Okay, a Roman general. During the Punic Wars that Rome had with Carthage. Okay, and Africa. Okay, was named after him. Okay, those are two Edomites. You see, so calling yourself an Antiochian is the same as calling yourself an American or African American, man. Okay, nothing new under the sun. It says when the king had granted and had gotten into his hand to rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to Greekish fashions. Okay, unto Greekish fashion, man. Okay, so the youth was being trained up in Greekish fashion, just like we went to public school and all right, the sports and the gym and the philosophies. Okay, the indoctrination of the school curriculum. Okay, we went the way we went to school, the co-ed, the men and women, young men and women in classrooms together. That's the Greekish fashion. Okay, you're getting taught Greek philosophy. Okay, the Greek, are the heroes. The Romans and the Greeks are the heroes in history. Okay, we was brought up in the Greekish fashion. Okay, like I say, the sports, the locker room, shower, off. Okay, nothing to do with our culture and who we are as a people. That was the Greekish fashion. Okay, so let's go from there. Let's get this in chapter 6. Okay, then we get a little history, then we'll go back. But to understand 1 Corinthians 12 and 2, you have to understand the history. It's impossible to understand the New Testament, when it's speaking of Gentiles and Greeks. Okay, the uncircumcision, you have to understand the New Testament. Okay, this is 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 1. It says, not long after the king sent the old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of the Most High, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, Olympius, and that in Gerizim, or Jupiter, the defender of strangers. And that's the same ideology behind Jesus Christ. Okay, the defender of strangers, the defender of actual heathens. All right, that's why Jake preaching that all heathens can make it. They're preaching a pagan doctrine. All right, Jupiter, all right, the defender of strangers, as they did desire, all right, they dwelt in this place, all right, because Jupiter is interchangeable, with Zeus, all right, and there's always comparisons of Zeus and Jesus, Okay, this whole defender of strangers madness. Okay, it said the coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides, they brought in things that were not lawful, man. So they were just having Jake wilding, man, in the temple, man, Greeked out, man, freaked out. Temple harlots, as we've been going into that. Okay, and this is why the Apostle Paul is writing, okay, in the fashion, that he's writing. Okay, or you hear the New Testament speak about neither Jew nor Greek. Okay, you have to understand that history. It says neither was it lawful for man to keep Sabbath days, all right, or ancient feasts, okay, or profess himself to be a Jew, all right, at all to be a Jew. So what did Jake have to call themselves, man? Okay, what did Jake have to call us? You couldn't even profess yourself to be a Jew. Okay, so let's go here. Let's tap into a little history. Okay, even going from Alexander, all right, into that time, which Alexander was more lenient. Alexander himself, all right. Now, when you go into Hellenization of the Jews under the Greek Empire, all right. So I just asked for a detailed, account of their history. Okay, so beginning in 332 BC and onward, all right, under Alexander, it says when Alexander the Great conquered the Levant, including Judea, he brought with him the policy of cultural fusion known as Hellenization, spreading Greek language, ideas, and customs. Key features of early Hellenization: Greek became the language of government and commerce. Cities were reorganized along the Greek polis model, infrastructure, marketplaces, and theaters. And that's why even when Yahushua was crucified, all right, on the cross, all right, it was written King of the Jews in what? Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, showing you how much Greek culture and language was still relevant even in the Roman Empire. That's why, we call it the Greco-Roman Empire, And it says Greek education, all right, was introduced to local elites. Jews were not forced to abandon their religion under Alexander. In fact, he generally respected local customs. It says many, all right, Jews began adopting Greek names, Jason, Menelaus, Alexander. This was mostly voluntarily cultural adoption, especially among the upper class. Okay, because to do business, to trade, to to be in certain circles, all right, you will have to what? Just like now, you will have to incorporate yourself more and more, okay, into the Greek culture. Okay, just like now, Jake become what? Masons and this and that, and get into these sororities, and this you have to become you have to come infused more and more with the culture of the ruling class, all right, to participate in particular business and trade, and be in certain circles, just like today. It said after Alexander's death, Judea came under Ptolemaic Egypt for about a century, and this is what Jake gets a lot of that Serapis Crispus, okay, because Ptolemy Soter the first, his son died, and he turned his son into an idol. Okay, when you get Serapis Crispus, okay, and he had a lot of Jakes that worship, this Edomite idol, okay, which is Jesus. His Jesus character is an offshoot of that. Okay, Elder Apostle Gabar always goes into that. It said Jews served as mercenaries, administrators, and traders within the Greek-speaking world. Alexander became home to massive, Israelite community, highly Hellenized, but you had, Jakes that were still following the ways in Alexander as well. That's why Yahushua was able to go into Egypt, to flee into Egypt, because you had Jakes that was in Alexander that was Hellenized, and you had synagogues in Alexander as well, where Jake was keeping away. All right, and that's where Yahushua went to hide amongst, until the death of Herod. Okay, and then it said the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, was created in Alexander. a major sign of cultural blending. Okay, many Jews participated in Greek civic life, philosophy, and literature. Hellenization accelerated but remained mostly peaceful and selective. So Jake was just naturally being assimilated into Greek culture. Okay, Greek life, Greek way of thought, Greek philosophy. Okay, literature. You see, and it says Seleucia rule 198 to 167 BCE. It says tension and forced Hellenization. When the Seleucian Empire, based in Syria and Mesopotamia, took control, Hellenization took a sharper, more aggressive turn, which we read about. Okay, a major divide emerged between Hellenized, all right, Israelite elites from the priestly families. Okay, you had Jason. Okay, wicked niggas. All right, and then you had Mattathias. Okay, it said traditionalists. Okay, later called, which would go into the Hasmoneans. Okay, the Maccabean revolt. All right, and that's where you get, the Pharisees. Okay, that will come from, that Maccabean revolt. Okay, in which eventually they became, a lot of them became, sellouts. All right, it said originally Joshua built a gymnasium in Jerusalem and tried to turn the city into a Greek-style palace. Menelaus, another Hellenized priest, outbid Jason for the high priesthood, further intensifying Greek reform. For the first time, all right, Israelite religious leadership became intertwined with Greek political maneuvering. Okay, it says tension under Antiochus. Okay, the fourth. All right, a Seleucid king who attempted to enforce political unity through religious and cultural uniformity. Okay, key actions. Was we read these things? All right, and these are the things we read about. All right, which just led into what? The Maccabean revolt. Okay, and you had the Feast of Hanukkah. The rededication of the temple, established a semi-independent, Israelite kingdom, the Hasmonean dynasty. And we got lessons on this. We go into this. All right. I have to look through, see if I can find the lessons I've done on this. On Baratazai. I can find it. So if I find it, I either repost, or put a link somewhere for it to be accessible. Alvarez, I had to comb through. So so now, we went through the history, and it's, it's plenty more, but, just to touch on that point. You see, that's a lesson within itself, but let's go here. Let's go back to all right. So let's go back to 1 Corinthians 12, and let's go into the NLT. Now, this is going into the diversity of gifts, okay, that make up the body. 1 Corinthians 12:3 said, therefore, I want you to know that one speaking, and see, the Apostle Paul is addressing this because, within, just like now, you see in the camp, some brothers are powerful speakers, some brothers, are, historians, some brothers, are heavy into the herbs and, can break down the body. And some brothers speak diverse languages, and some brothers is, up on the current events and the happenings and news. And some brothers, brothers have their different gifts. Okay. And what you had amongst the Church of Corinth, particular men, was boasting because, they will have a gift that will have them more out front, and Apostle Paul is bringing balance, okay, to the situation. All right, that there are different gifts, but none shall boast against the other. Okay, every part of the body is needful and necessary. Some parts of the body are going to stick out, are going to be more, preeminent. Okay, or be more honored than other parts. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the parts that doesn't have as much honor, all right, should be treated differently or looked down upon or acted is not necessary, man. Okay, so the Apostle Paul is bringing the balance to this situation. Okay, 1 Corinthians 12:3. Therefore, I want you to know that no one speaking by the power, all right, and influence of the Spirit of the Most High can say, Yahweh shall be cursed. And no one can say, Yahweh shall is my Lord, except by the power and influence of the Holy Spirit. So the Apostle Paul is like, look, it's by the Spirit, okay, because they don't have the records. You see, so the fact that they're getting these spiritual gifts, the ability to teach and, prophesy, okay, call on the Lord. And see, this is not, just saying Lord, and they're not saying Jesus, they're saying Yahweh is Lord, confessing it and living by that. You can't do that except by the Holy Spirit to confess Yahweh as Lord and live by that, and it says, verse 4 says, now there are distinctive varieties of spiritual gifts, special abilities given by the grace and extraordinary power of the Holy Spirit operating in believers, but it is the same Spirit who grants them and empowers believers. And there are distinctive varieties of ministries and service, but it's the same Lord who is served. And there are distinctive ways of working to accomplish things, but it is the same power who produces all things in all believers, inspiring, energizing, and empowering them, man. So whatever, because there are diversity of gifts, and whatever brother gifts is, that brother gifts is used to forward the ministry, is used to forward Yahweh, whatever the gift might be. Some brothers got different teaching styles. Brothers got different perspectives of the same, doctrine. Okay, different angles. Brothers grew up in different circumstances. Brothers grew up, different parts, okay, of the country, different parts of the world. Okay, so brothers gonna have different viewpoints on the same doctrine. Brothers gonna have different gifts. Okay, brothers gonna, bring, all right, let's say different perspectives to the table. Okay, but it's all the forwarding of the throne, all right, of Yahweh is coming to the earth, man. Okay, it's all the forwarding, the edification of the body, prepping them for Yahweh. It's all about edification, man. Okay, it said, but to each one is given the manifestation of the Spirit, the spiritual illumination, and the enabling of the Holy Spirit for the common good. Okay, to one is given through the Holy Spirit the power to speak the message of wisdom, another to the power to express the word of knowledge and understanding according to the same Spirit, man. Some brothers are, heavy into the breakdowns, able to expound and, go into the parables and link this and link that. Okay. Some brothers are good with words, brothers are wordsmiths. You see, some brothers, go into the cultural aspect. Okay. Some brothers go into the, the kingly aspect. Okay. Because there's so much to go into. Okay. One brother can't cover everything. That's why there's a body, and brothers just, and it all complements one another, each part of the body. And this is what Apostle Paul is pushing. The body is to complement one another. Okay. Not to compete or compare. Okay. Or shame or look down. No, man. Each body, each gift, no matter how, honorable one is, or, one, because you're going to have, brothers that's going to stand out. But that doesn't mean that the brothers that are not seen, that are not out in front, are not important, and those brothers that stand out shouldn't look at those brothers as less than. Okay, because the Lord got it. You know how you got it set up. Brothers just teach. The Lord give the increase, as we read about in 1 Corinthians. Okay, the 3rd chapter. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. 1 Corinthians 3. All right. All right, this 1 Corinthians 3:6. It says, I planted, Apollos watered, but the Most High all the while was causing the growth, okay, or the increase. You see, so it's the Most High to give the increase. You know, this is why the brothers don't know, you know, what their light is. They just, we all come in, you know, just, you know, young and not really know what's going on, learning, and you know, we're drawn to certain brothers, and we start to imitate, and you know, we start to teach, and you know, we go through their parrot phrase, and then we start to begin to really understand, and we just, you know, it's the Most High to give the increase, man. Okay. No brother had no idea. We didn't know we was gonna be prophesying. We know we was gonna be out on the highways and byways. Okay. So, you know, brothers are just teaching according to their gift, and it's the Most High that gives the increase. Okay. And all in all, you know, no matter what, you know, brother, let's go here. No matter how, you know, much your brother stands out, all right, that doesn't give that brother, okay, the right to look down on the men, okay, that are not as seen, that are not as known, you know, and the men that have fallen out of the truth were the men that was most known. You know, it's a lot of heavy hitters, okay, it's a lot of powerful speakers, okay, that the Lord has discarded, you know, and you look at that and note, okay, it's not about that, because the Lord has shown us it's not about that. Okay. There's a lot of great speakers and, you know, breakdown guys and, you know, men that was, you know, extremely edifying. All right. And the Lord, all right, cast them away, you know, and they would be proud, you know, they'll get to the point where they couldn't be told anything, and they, you know, they would be cast away. Then the Lord will bring in, you know, more fruit, more edification from other men. You know, he will snatch those talents and give it to other men as you read the parable of the talents. Okay. And it says, to another, wonder working faith is given by the same Holy Spirit, and to another, the extraordinary gifts of healing by the one Spirit. Yes, some brothers, you know, are gifted with the herbs, man. Like they know the body like that. You know, you ask the brother anything, he got a solution for the herb. You know, the right blend. You know, I know their brother Elder Canuck, you know, and brother El Zahab down here in the Mississippi camp, you know, just right off the bat, you know, they heavy into that, you know, and their brother El Canuck, like he's, you know, what they say, he's a godsend, you know, when it comes to that. You see, that's his gift, you know, and he's tapped in, you know, off camera, he's tapped into that, you know. But that just shows you that, you know, and all that's needed, you know, because, you know, we need health, you know, physical health to teach this word, man, to be productive. Okay. 1 Corinthians 12:10, it says, to another, the working of miracles, and to another, prophecy, foretelling the future, speaking a new message from the Most High to the people, and to another, discernment of spirits, the ability to distinguish sound, all right, godly doctrine from deceptive doctrine, and man-made religions and cults, to another, various kinds of unknown tongues, and to another, interpretation of tongues. Yeah, because certain brothers are good at response videos, breaking down, you know, false doctrine. Okay. Some brothers, they specialize in that, responding, to false doctrine. Okay. Brothers, going into, prophecy and what's to come and how things are shaping out, whatever it might be, you know. But it's all for the edification of the same body. Okay. He says all these things, the gifts, the achievements, the abilities, the empowering are brought about by one of the same Holy Spirit, distributing to each one individually just as he chooses. Okay? And you even go back here. Let's go to KJV for a minute. When you go to Isaiah, all right, 34, and then we get that in Ephesians. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 16 says, "Seek you out the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate," which is the Bible. "For my mouth it have commanded it, his spirit it have gathered it, and said, none shall want her mate." There's nothing that you can mate with the Bible that's just equal. Okay, the Bible is a superior book. Other books, you will use to, all right, expound on what the Bible, all right, has already established. The truth of the Bible has established. You can get other books that can expound on that. Okay, but there's no book, okay, that are equal to the Bible. You don't get another book to see if the Bible is true. No, other books, all right, the Bible lets us know if other books are true. Okay, like I said, I like to go into history, all right, but my reference is always the Bible. And certain things don't line up, in other books or documentaries or studies, and it don't link up with the Bible, then it's off. Okay, the Bible is the authority, superior authority of truth, all right, and knowledge in the earth, man. Okay, verse 17 says, "And he have cast a lot for them, and he in his hand have divided it by them by line, and they shall possess it forever. From generation to generation shall they dwell therein." So each generation there's a portion that's given, okay, to the prophets, man. Each brother has their own portion, okay, that's their inheritance, all right, their gifts given from on high, okay, and it's all to forward the ministry, all to forward Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, the edification. Okay, let's get this real quick in Ephesians chapter 4. Okay, you go into this a lot. This is Ephesians 4. Okay, and 8. It said, "Wherefore he saith, when he ascended on high, Yahweh Shai, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men." Okay, so it's Yahweh Shai that sent down gifts, okay, unto his brethren for the sake of what? Edification, preparing the church for his second coming. All right, that's why you jump down here. In verse 11, he gave some apostles, these are the gifts, some prophets, and some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers, for the perfecting, of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Hamashiach. So you have the diversity of gifts and offices for what? The perfecting of the saints, equipping the believers, all right, for the times that we're in, to endure the straight gate, all right, and have a mind, okay, and the expectation towards Yahweh Shai and his second coming, till we all come into the unity of faith, that belief, and the knowledge, and of the knowledge of the Son of the Most High, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of, all right, Yahweh Shai, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. Okay, we're about they lie in wait to deceive. See, those that are really under the true teachings of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai are maturing in the spirit to where false doctrines begins. You're able to have discernment. It's a part of, the body. Is to give that discernment. the spiritual discernment to know, okay, this is off. You see, with certain believers, you don't even need a response video. You get to the point to where, okay, but then it's the response video just add on to the edification that, the understanding that we have. Okay, as of late, the understanding of what salvation is has been made more clear. I have a more clear understanding of salvation, and that's the thing, that nothing works against the believers, but for the believers. If we're of the elect, everything is working for us. Okay, everything, that happens, false doctrines and madness of Jake, well, it works for us, man. Okay, because more edification comes out. You see? So let's go back here to 1 Corinthians. All right, this is the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 12. And starting at 11, said, but all these worketh that one, all right, that one and the self same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will, as as the body is one and have many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is a Mashiach. For by one Spirit are we all baptized into one body, whether we be, Jews or Gentiles, and we explain that. Who are those Gentiles? Israelite foreigners. Whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. So you could be of the circumcision and have the gift of prophecy, or you can be an Israelite foreigner. You can have the same gift of prophecy, man. Okay? You can be of circumcision and have the gift of healing. Okay? Or you can be of the Israelite foreigner had that gift of healing, because it was the same Spirit, working in all. He said, for the body is not one member, but many. If the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, I am not the body, is therefore not one body. And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, I am not the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing? If the whole body were hearing, where would the smelling? But now have the Most High set the members, every one of them, in the body as it had pleased him. Yeah, so just because, like I said, brothers not out front, it doesn't mean that he's not part of the body. Okay, because he's not, a brother that's, more known or, recognizable. Does that mean that he's not part of the body? Or if the whole body just did one thing, imagine a big eye just floating around. You see a big eye, it don't have anything else, just an eye. Okay, they will be they'll be very inefficient. Okay, you couldn't get nothing done. No, you got many functions of a body, even things that you don't see, because you see hands moving, eyes blinking, but you don't see the internal functions of a body that keep the body going, the blood pumping, the arteries, and those things are not seen, but they're vital. Okay, these things are vital, man. Okay, so each member is necessary. Each part is meant to be diverse, and it all complements one another, and it's all linked. You see, your hands need your arms. Arms need your shoulders. Shoulders need your chest, your midsection. Okay, so forth and so on. Everything is linked and connected with a purpose, man. It said, but now are ordained many members, yet but one body. And the eye cannot say unto the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be the more feeble are necessary. Yeah, so those things that people, because even certain things in your body, what you could, you don't even, because there's certain a body function. We don't even know how they work, but it's necessary. You know, how the body, creates a scab. You cut yourself and how the body creates a scab. You see? Your immune system, how, things work. We're learning these things, because, brothers into that tapped in, more and more. Okay? Well, there's certain things that happen that you get, you can't even explain, but it's necessary. Okay? Your skin, how your skin is a barrier that protects you. That's your biggest organism. That's your biggest organ. Okay? Your nose hairs, like the purpose they serve, like a filter, you see? Plenty of other things, man, but they're necessary, man. So certain brothers that are not out front, that doesn't mean that brother's not necessary, man. Every brother, if a brother is in the camp, if a brother is a sincere help, that brother is necessary. His office is needed. Okay. And it says, reading on, says, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant, comeliness, man. Yeah, man. So, we don't treat brothers different. We don't treat brothers based on how popular they are on the internet. Okay, how many views they got. Okay, how many people are watching the live. We don't judge brothers by that. Okay, brothers that don't, they're not up front, they get the same charity, love, appreciation. You see, this ain't no popularity. We're not in junior high. Okay, this ain't a popularity contest, man. All right, the body is full of sincere men, beautiful brothers, man. And those brothers are esteemed like everyone else, man. In Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, he said that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another, and whether one member suffer, all members suffer with it, and or one member be honored, all members rejoice with it. Now ye are the body of Hamashiach, and members, in particular, and the Most High, have set some in the church, first apostles, secondary prophets, thirdly teachers, and after that miracles, then gifts of healing, helps, governments, which is administrative, brothers. A lot of brothers, they handle a lot in the background. This is this is a nation, man. This is like a government. The elect is like a nation within itself. Okay. Said diversities of tongues, are all apostles, are all prophets, are all teachers, are all workers of miracles, but all have, it said have all the gifts of healing. Do all we speak tongues? Do all interpret? But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show unto you, a more excellent way. Which next chapter he's going to go into that charity, man. Coupled with these gifts. You see? But just wanted to tap into that, Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edify once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great example to our younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation, hopefully, shalom.